A root system spreads wider than the tree it holds. You will never photograph it. No one applauds it. But when the wind comes, the root is the argument. This week's 7 verses share a single grammar. God's most decisive actions happen where no human audience exists. He witnesses in private rooms. He holds from underneath. He names before the evidence arrives. Watch for the pattern, not where God shows up publicly, but where he has already been working when no one was counting. The Hebrew word for outrageous here is the same one used for rape, not metaphor, but moral catastrophe. Jeremiah 29 verse 23 says, "Because they have done an outrageous thing in Israel, they have committed adultery with their neighbors' wives, and they have spoken in my name lying words that I did not command them. I am the one who knows, and I am witness, declares the Lord." Notice, God doesn't say I will find out. He says I am witness, present tense. He watched the adultery and the sermon happen in the same week from the same men. The legal term matters. A witness testifies. God isn't waiting for evidence. He already has it. Your hidden life and your spoken faith are not two compartments. They are one file, and it's already open. The God whose name you speak is the God who was in the room you thought was empty. Moses blesses a land he will never set foot in and never flinches. Deuteronomy 33 verse 27 says, "The eternal God is your dwelling place, and underneath are the everlasting arms. And he thrust out the enemy before you and said, 'Destroy.'" That word underneath is doing everything, not beside you, not above you, underneath. It answers the one fear no other position can, the floor giving way. The Hebrew for dwelling place is miona, a den, a lair, something carved into rock. And the same arms holding you up are the ones driving out what threatens you. The gentleness and the violence come from the same source. The ground you fear is dissolving has something older beneath it, and it has never moved. The Hebrew word for pour here is the same one prophets use for wrath, but God aims it at blessing. Isaiah 44:3 says, "For I will pour water on the thirsty land and streams on the dry ground. I will pour my spirit upon your offspring and my blessing on your descendants." God speaks to cracked earth, not soil that earned rain, but ground with nothing left to offer. And the promise skips a generation forward, your offspring, your descendants. Your current drought is not their ceiling. The verb is shapuk, a drenching, not a drip. What arrives here is wildly out of proportion to the condition of the dirt receiving it. You are not too dry for this. The water was always headed toward empty ground. Paul names Satan the god of this world, a title, not a compliment, and not a metaphor. 2 Corinthians 4:4 says, "In their case, the god of this world has blinded the minds of the unbelievers to keep them from seeing the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God." That word blinded, itiflosin, is violent and active. Someone is doing this to someone else. The target is not the will, not the emotions, but the mind's capacity to perceive light. Which means the person you love who cannot see what you see is not stupid. They are standing in manufactured darkness. Your arguments were never the remedy. The same God who commanded light out of nothing is the only force that breaks this. Stop debating harder. Start asking the one who made light to make it again. Jesus hid things on purpose, not to keep them from you, but to keep them for you. Mark 4:22 says, "For nothing is hidden except to be made manifest, nor is anything secret except to come to light." That word "except" carries the whole verse. In Greek, it's a purpose clause, hidden in order to be revealed, not hidden and then accidentally discovered. The concealment is the mechanism, not the obstacle. Every seed goes underground before it breaks the surface. If your faithfulness feels invisible right now, the hiddenness is not working against you. It is the grammar of what God is preparing to show. What is buried in you is not forgotten, it is being timed. Simon hadn't earned a new name. Jesus gave him one anyway, before he deserved it. Mark 3:16 says, "He appointed the 12, Simon, to whom he gave the name Peter." The word "gave" does the heavy lifting here, not earned, not chose for himself. Jesus assigned Petros, rock, to a man who would publicly deny knowing him 3 times. In the ancient world, renaming someone meant you held authority over their identity. Jesus didn't describe who Simon was. He declared who Simon would become, and he did it with the certainty of someone who finishes what he starts. You are not called to become your past. You are called to grow into the name already spoken over you. Gold filigree is wire bent by hand. God chose the most painstaking technique for a part no one would notice. Exodus 28:13 says, "And you shall make settings of gold filigree." Settings, not the stones, not the robe. The settings, the small structural pieces that grip the engraved names of Israel's tribes onto the priest's shoulders. God didn't say fasten them. He specified filigree, wire twisted and braided until it holds without crushing what it carries. That word, mishbetzot, describes work that exists only to secure something else. If your work is holding someone else's name in place, God dictated the craft for exactly that. The one who designed worship gave equal detail to the part no congregation would ever see. There is an assumption most of us carry without examining it, that what is visible is what is real. That if no one saw it, it didn't fully happen. That the measure of significance is an audience. Every verse this week dismantles that assumption from a different angle. Across Jeremiah and Deuteronomy, through Isaiah and Mark and Paul and Exodus, the same structural claim repeats. God's most consequential work, his testimony, his support, his drenching generosity, his light-breaking, his identity-assigning, his craftsmanship, happens precisely where visibility is zero. This is not a sentimental claim about God caring about little things. It is an architectural one. The load-bearing walls of Scripture are set in places no one tours, and the implication cuts both directions. First, it means your obsession with being seen is solving the wrong problem. The frantic need to prove your faithfulness, to show results, to make your obedience legible to other people. It misunderstands the location where God does primary work. You keep dragging things into the light to validate them. God keeps building in the dark because that is where foundations go. Second, and this is harder, it means your sin is not more hidden than you think. It is less. The same God who builds underneath is the God who already has the file open. There is no version of your life where the unseen parts are neutral territory. They are either the place God is crafting something load-bearing or the place where you have mistaken darkness for privacy. The week's verses do not offer a God who occasionally glances at the hidden. They offer a God whose native workspace is the unseen, who treats concealment as mechanism, drought as occasion, and unnamed men as rocks. So the question for your study this week is this: what are you trying to make visible that God may be deliberately keeping underground, and what have you hidden that he has been witnessing the entire time? Next week brings 7 more verses, and the pattern will keep moving. Subscribe to catch both the daily readings and the weekly thread that ties them together. The God who works underneath has not stopped building beneath you, and he does not need your awareness to finish what he started.